What's going on, guys? My name is Sam and you're watching Cat Spice Camp. And today I'm going to be showing you how to skin a rabbit for hide tanning. This is going to be a full rabbit hide, including the face as well. So let's go ahead and hop right into it. Thanks for watching. So the first steps I've done, cut off the front feet with scissors. Very easy. Find where the front feet bend and cut right there at the bend. Second, I came around the back feet, cut a ring around just the fur around the back feet, and then I cut a small slit in the tendon and connected a carabiner to it. I did that to the other foot as well. Now we're going to attach the rabbit from the carabiners up to this gambrel system. Next, we are going to make cuts from the inside of the ankle cut up here all the way down to the vent hole, and the same for the other leg. I'm just going to be using a razor blade knife. These are very sharp and they work pretty good for this. And it might be easier to unhook one leg and cut one leg at a time and do it like that. Alright, just like that, we have it cut from the ankle all the way down to the vent hole. Now we're going to do the same thing for the other back leg. So now that we have both back leg cuts made from the ankles all the way down to the vent hole connecting the two cuts, we're going to start gently pulling the hide off of the back legs. We're just going to be using our hands for this right now. Peeling the hide back off of the bone, tendons, and meat. And like I said before, it might be easier to unhook one leg and do one leg at a time. But if it's easier for you to do it with both, go ahead and do that. I'm trying to be extra careful with this hide because this is my second ever hide, and the first one, dang it. And as I was talking about it, it had a rip like the first one. The first one was ripping really easily, so now I'm trying to make the best of this hide, make sure it doesn't rip. We already have a small tear forming, but I'm going to try to avoid doing that anymore. Rabbit hide is very thin, and it does not take much pressure to rip these. It's not like a squirrel or a raccoon or a deer. If you need to get a sharp knife to help you disconnect some of the connections, go ahead and do that. It's wanting to tear on me easily. I mean really easily. I don't like that. It's still wanting to tear. That's unfortunate. This rabbit almost smells like garlic. Might have been eating some wild onions or something. Yeah, I think it was eating some wild onions. Alright, now that we got the fur off the back leg, I'm going to do the same to the other back leg and then show y'all the next step with the tail. So I think the trick is just to have light pressure with your left hand and then use the knife to cut the connections as you're keeping light pressure with your left hand. Slightly pull on the hide, use a sharp razor blade to cut through those clearish webbing connections. All the membrane sinew and whatnot, and it will slowly disconnect the hide off of the leg. Okay, so now that we have worked the hide off of the back legs, we're going to start to disconnect the tail. So how we're going to do that is we're just going to cut right through the tailbone. Alright, just like that, we have cut through the tailbone. Now we can continue to work the hide all the way down the body. We might need to make a couple more connections inside the groin area to disconnect the members. So we're going to pinch up the internal member organ. You guys know what I mean. And we're going to cut through it, just disconnect it from the body. Just like that. Now we can continue to work this hide all the way down to the front arms. Be gentle still though, you don't want to rip this hide. And it's possible you might have to make a few more cuts along the way. Don't be afraid to use the knife. I'm just lightly pulling down on the skin and lightly cutting. What is that? Is that the pellet? I think that's the shotgun pellet. That is. Is that a pellet too, or what is that? Oh yeah, that's the fur that the pellet drug inside. Yeah, that's one of the shotgun pellets. Yep, that's a pellet with fur wrapped around it right there, guys. So there is going to be a few holes in the hide just from the shotgun itself. So we will have to be careful to work around those holes and not tear them any wider than possible. Just keep cutting around it and getting the hide disconnected off of the body until you get all the way down to where the shoulders are, the front shoulders. So we're just working it all the way down to where we got it to the shoulders. Now that we got it to the shoulders, you can start to use your thumbs. Just be gentle. And if there's a part that feels a little bit too strong to disconnect easily with your thumb, get the blade out. Cut that connection. Try to leave as much meat behind, but also try not to cut your hide as well. Now that we're down to the shoulder, we're going to start peeling it down off of the arm. The arm is right here, here's the elbow, and that is the end of the arm. We're going to just slowly work it off the arm, and since we've already cut the foot off, it's just going to work right off the arm like a sock. Foot bone almost ripped the hide. Be careful if you've already cut off your feet that there's not a sharp foot bone that's going to rip through your hide, because that can happen. To prevent that, you could just cut the feet off after you pull the hide down to the ankle. Or you can cut the fur off of the foot rather. And also flipping it around and continue to disconnect the hide off of the back shoulders and the spine area. You can take your hand, put it up through the cased hide, and start pushing the foot up through as well with your thumb or your finger. Just like that, we have the hide disconnected off of the front arm. Now I'm going to disconnect it off of this arm and then show you the next part, which is disconnecting the hide with the face fully intact off of the head. All right, now we have the hide worked off both of the legs. The only thing left to do is to work it off of the head, leaving the ears and the eye holes and the nose on the face as well. It's pretty much the same method that we've been using to get the skin off of the whole body. Cut the connections, pull it down until you get to the base of the ears. Alright, I have the hide worked down all the way to the base of the head. Now I'm going to take this inside and finish up in there. It's getting a little cold out here, it's getting late at night, and I'll have better lighting inside. So I'll show you guys the next step. Okay, so now we're just going to continue to work the hide off of this head. We're also going to try to leave as much meat behind, so that makes the fleshing job a bit easier if you plan on fleshing this traditionally, which I think I'm going to end up using a different style of fleshing, which is technically not even really fleshing it at all once I get the bigger chunks off, like this right here. So now we have the hide worked to the base of the ears. We're going to take our knife, and in this case I'm using an X-Acto blade, and we're going to cut straight into the skull at the base of the ears. You can use your fingers to feel it, and I just know right here is where the ears are as well. So we're going to cut through the flesh, making sure that you're not cutting through the hide. Cutting through the base of that ear, the very base of the ear. I'm going to switch out to a sharp razor blade Alright. Now you can see that tube that's been disconnected from each side. That was the ear. Now we're going to do the same to the next ear. Alright, now the ears are disconnected. We're going to continue to disconnect the hide from the head. Trying to work most of this meat off, but I know some's going to come along with it, which is alright. Just using a sharp blade, continue to cut the connections. They're connecting the hide to the skull until you work your way down to the eyeball. We have disconnected the head from the body to do this as well, so it's not as hard to maneuver around, moving around the body, flipping it back and forth over and over, and to get the body cold in the freezer or fridge or on ice. Just cut through the connective membrane while you're peeling down the skin or the hide from the face. Now I did have to dispatch this rabbit with a .22 revolver in the head, so there is going to be a hole on both sides, but we're just going to have to work around it. When you get down to the eyeball, it's kind of hard to see, but it's right here. You just want to keep your cuts as close to the eye as possible. Right there's the eyeball. We're going to open up this little sac that is around it, and then you want to keep your cuts really close to the eyeball and just cut through that membrane that's connecting the eyeball to the hide. You'll see the eyelashes inside. That's what you want to keep intact, is the eyelashes, if at all possible. Do the same thing to the other eyeball. If you didn't hit yours in the head with a bullet, yours is probably going to look a little cleaner than this. But if you did hit yours in the head with some sort of projectile, there is going to be some damage. You just have to work around the damage. Alright, we have the hide worked off both the eyes. Now we're just going to continue to work the hide down to the nose. So I've just been working it down and working it down all the way to the nose. Trying to work around this damaged spot. Now we're just working it off the lower jaw, or what was the lower jaw. Once we get down to the nose, you want to cut in towards the skull. Make sure not to cut the hide, because this is pretty much one of the last steps. You don't want to mess it up now. Okay, now I've cut into the nose. Now we can start working the nose off after we work the rest of the hide off the lower jaw. You just want to cut outside of the nose and just cut the connections away from the skull. Make sure not to cut through the hide like you have done for the rest of your hide. And now the hide is disconnected fully from the skull and the body. So there is the damage on the side of the face. But we was able to get away with most of the head intact. And that was from dispatching. Now if you did harvest a male squirrel and you have yet to remove his members, now will be the time to disconnect his members. Alright, we have disconnected his members. And now the final step, if you haven't already disconnected or removed the tailbone, this will be the time to remove the tailbone. So So there might be several ways to do this, but the best way that I know how to do it is I'm going to try to split the tail with this knife. Hopefully that will work. Using one hand to try to split the fur open, and the other hand to cut through the hide in the middle of the tailbone. Doing this method is also going to cut some of the fur, but that's just part of doing this method. I'm afraid of trying to rip the tailbone out of it fully because it might rip the tail completely off the hide. And I want to keep the tail on this side. Alright, I think I've split it all the way down to the tip of the tailbone. So now we're going to try to gently and slowly disconnect it without ripping it if we can. So actually I'm just finding that using my finger to remove this tailbone is working so far. Just using light pressure and trying to remove it from the skin a little bit at a time. Oh, and it is starting to rip a little bit, so I'm going to stop that. Start to use the knife. Don't want to come all this way and rip the tail off. Rabbit hides are extremely delicate. The most delicate hide that I've ever worked so far. Alright, and we got the tailbone completely removed. And that's it, guys. That's how you case skin a rabbit hide. From tail all the way to the nose. Now let's turn it first side out and take a look at it. Alrighty guys, and that's what we have. It still needs to be fleshed, tanned, and cleaned, all that good stuff. But that is how you case skin a rabbit pelt from nose all the way to the tail without ripping and tearing it apart. These are very delicate hides, so this can be a hard process. Dang ticks. Alrighty guys, and it's all done from the face all the way down to the tail. And that's pretty much going to wrap it up. And that is how you case skin a rabbit hide without tearing it all apart. If you enjoy these small game taxidermy and instructional style videos, let me know in the comments below. Here recently I've been doing a lot of small game hunting and ended up getting this rabbit and some other game as well. If you'd like to see a small game hunting video that had some good action in it, I'll link it right here at the end. But until next time, please consider liking, sharing with friends and family, and subscribing if you haven't already. Sam out.